Italian Cooking in association with Simply Good Food TV, where today we're going to make Pane in Cassetta, or bread in a box. Now, before we get started, take a second, click that subscribe button in YouTube, and download the Simply Good Food TV app. Now, the reason this bread is called Pane in Cassetta is because it's baked in a pullman pan that has a slide-on lid. You're going to see this pan once we get started making the bread. Now, this bread is the Italian version of what us Americans think of as a standard white bread or sandwich bread, or the white bread that we buy at the grocery store. I've talked enough about this bread. Let's get started and take a look at our ingredients. Let's take a real quick look at the ingredients for our Pane in Cassetta, or bread in a box. We have 4 teaspoons of instant yeast, 1 tablespoon of sugar, a 1/4 cup of butter. Now I am going to soften this a bit in the microwave, and 1 1/2 teaspoons of salt. We have 1 3/4 cup of warm water. Now, before I measure out my flour, what I want to do is give my yeast time to bloom. To do that, let me get this paddle out of the way here. Put that on a little bit too early. I'm going to put our water right in our mixer. Again, that's 1 3/4 cups of water. And we're going to dump our yeast into our water along with our sugar. Now, the sugar is going to help that yeast bloom. I am got a little stir stick here somewhere. I'm going to give that a quick little stir to get everything mixed together. Now, this is going to take about 10 minutes to bloom. And what you'll see is it's going to get cloudy over time, is what I really mean by bloom. So we need flour. If you do not have a good accurate scale, you're going to want about, and I got to look over here at my paper real quick, you're going to need about 5 1/2 cups of unbleached all-purpose flour. Again, very important that you used unbleached flour. If you have a nice scale, you want about 780 grams. So I'm going to measure this out right here. All right, that's 780 grams, or 5 1/2 cups of all-purpose flour. This is unbleached all-purpose flour. We're about ready to get started, but we do have to wait on the yeast. This takes about 10 minutes, as I said earlier, for this yeast to bloom or to dissolve in our water. So while I'm waiting, I'm not going to make you guys wait with me. I'm going to go ahead and get my butter softened and get a few things cleaned up and changed around here, and then we'll be back. It's been about 10 minutes, and as you can see, our yeast has bloomed. Our water is now kind of cloudy. You can see it's just all nice and foamy, and that's perfect. That's exactly what you want to see. So before we mix our flour into our water, our salt, you want to mix your salt into your flour, because you want to make sure that it gets evenly distributed throughout. So you don't have to be crazy and sift it in there. That's good enough. That'll help it get mixed. Now, I did soften my butter. We're going to put that right in our liquid. Start with our paddle. All I'm going to do is slow speed. Going to put my flour down in here, trying not to make too much of a mess as I go. Kind of going a little bit slow, trying not to dump the whole darn thing in at once. Keep going. We want to let our paddle do its job and bring everything together. You can hear my mixer slow down a little bit. That paddle has done its job. We're going to retire it. I'm getting a little floury mess going on everywhere here. Got some flour over here. Knock that down in. All right, let's get, woo! I'm getting in a hurry. Let's clean off our paddle. This dough is trying its best to get away, so. All right, so now we're going to turn on our dough hook and let it bring this wonderful dough together, and then we'll check to see if it needs a little bit of water and whatnot. And remember, anytime you make dough, you will, if you're a new dough maker, you might tend to make it a little dry because it's easier to handle that way. But anytime you're making dough, wetter is better. Quite honestly, the wetter the dough, the better the bread, but it can be a little more difficult to control, we'll say. Let's take a little quick peek. You can hear my bowl hitting my mixer. this feels, it's not sticky, and to me, this just needs, come on there. This just needs a little bit of water. So what I like to do is I just take my fingers and push down into my bread, or my dough. It's not bread yet. I'm gonna turn around and grab a little bit of water. This holds about a 1/4 cup, give or take. So I'm just gonna put in almost all of it there. We'll say about 3/4. We're gonna see how this turns out. Put that mounted back on there. Dough hook back on. I'm gonna turn this up on 2 just to bring it all together. I've got to adjust my bottom on my my mixing bowl here. You can hear that it's keeps dinging against my mixer. Take a quick gander, see what we got, if it's coming together good here. All right, that's gonna take some time. So what I'm gonna let this do is I'm gonna put the mixer down, lock it in, and we're gonna let this knead with the dough hook for about 3 minutes, and then we'll finish it by hand. So our dough's been kneading for about 3 minutes. We'll go ahead and, yeah, it needed that little bit of extra water. It's not sticky. It's almost sticky, but it's not quite smooth yet because we want to finish it up by hand. Now, when you're making dough, the way I like to knead my dough is I push away, then I kind of pull it back, maybe give it a little bit of a spin. This dough, we just need to knead it for just another second or 2 here by hand. And what this really, you're gonna feel the dough change. It's gonna become like a velvety smooth. You're not gonna feel any lumps or any hard spots, any wet spots. It just feels like a nice, velvety smooth, consistent ball of dough. And I'm gonna tell you, it's there. It's pretty much there. You do not want to overwork your dough. That's the important thing. All right, that is good. It almost feels a touch too dry. Again, because I like a good wet dough. I think this one will be good. This is the first time I've ever made this dough. I just decided this morning that I wanted to make my own sandwich bread. Did some research, and we're gonna go with that right there. Now, we want to put this, just find a big bowl and oil a bowl. Now what I did is I baked so much bread that I went to my local restaurant supply store and I got this nice storage container. Because for the size of loaves or the batches of bread I make, this is perfect. They have them great big, but for me this one's perfect. So all you're gonna do is put in a drop of your favorite oil. I always use olive oil just because I always have olive oil. And we'll wipe that around in our wonderful bowl. All right, we're gonna put that in there, right in the middle, seal it up, find a warm spot in my kitchen to let this set until it doubles in size, which takes about 1.5 to 2 hours, again, depending on the warmth of your kitchen. It's been about 1.5 hours, almost 2 hours, we'll say. And you can see my bread has more than doubled in size. So what I'm gonna do here real quick, if I can keep from making a flour mess all over my kitchen, I'm gonna put down a little bit of flour. Just enough so things won't stick. I'm gonna keep my flour here real close, turn my dough out. And what we're gonna do, I love this mat because it's got all my measurements and whatnot on it, just in case. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put a little bit of flour on top of this dough so it's not so sticky. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna roll this out to about 12 by 24 inches. And then we're gonna fold it. So we're gonna go up to about 12 inches, then we're gonna turn this, and I'm gonna roll it out, just keep rolling until I get it to about 24 inches. That's close enough. What we're gonna do is we're gonna fold this like a business letter to about 1/3 of the way, then like this, then fold it again, and like so. We're gonna do this again. We're gonna roll it out one more time, just like this, to another 12 by 24 inch piece of dough. It's definitely fighting me now. Let's give it a quick stretch just to help us with our rolling. So that's pretty good right there. All right, so now we're gonna do our final fold here on our bread. Now, we're gonna bake this in. This is called a pullman pan. This is why it's called bread in a box. So the way we're gonna do this is we're just gonna fold it all the way and all the way back into like a third here. Boom. And you can see that's gonna fit pretty decent right in our pan. Now we can't just put it in the pan. These pans some of these are non-stick, but it's not quite good enough. So what we're gonna do is we wanna butter our pan really, really well. All the sides. You wanna make sure that you don't miss any part of your pan. You wanna get this completely covered with butter. All right, I've got a really good smear of butter here. I am going to just take my dough, drop it right in. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the lid of my pan, get my butter. I am going to give this lid a really good smear of butter itself. So now I have my lid completely covered with butter. Really, really heavy, good coat of butter on there, because again, don't want it to stick. We're gonna cover our bread. We're gonna let it set for an hour. Now I'm gonna check it after an hour because I want it to be about maybe an inch from the top. And when it's from an inch from the top, then we'll put it in our oven. So in about a half hour, I'm gonna put my oven on 400 degrees. That way it'll give my oven about a half an hour to warm up. You wanna make sure that you got a really good even heat. You don't want any cool spots in your oven, so let it go for about a half hour. So when I check this dough, again, I want it to be about an inch from the top of the pan. I'll check it after about an hour. If it's not ready yet, we'll let it go another 20 minutes, half hour. So I'm gonna break away, get this wonderful butter off my hands, and when we come back, we'll be throwing this bad boy in the oven. So I've got a few things going on here, getting ready to film another episode, but my bread in the box, or my pane in cassetta, I really wasn't keeping a good eye on it and looked over and the top had popped off. You don't want this dough to come within an inch of the top. So if you do make that mistake and kind of lose track of time and forget to check at it, just punch it back a little bit. You don't want it to knock it clear down. So just kind of tap it. It'll fall just a little bit. So make sure your lid's on good and tight and it snaps in. And then this is gonna go in the oven at 400 degrees for 1 hour. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop this in the oven. When it's done, we'll come back and see how it turned out. So it's been an hour and the pane in cassetta, or the bread in a box, is ready to come out of the oven. So I'm gonna run over here real quick and snag it. Okay, this is extremely hot. I'm gonna put the lid back in the sink. We're gonna see if this will come out. It may not come out until it cools a little bit. There's our bread. You can see it's a nice color brown. Well, look at that, slid right out. That is beautiful. Look at that. Our wonderful bread in a box. Hear that sound? That's the sound of awesome bread. My phone just beeped. Isn't that great? So anyway, we'll let this cool. When we come back, we're gonna slice this and give it a taste. So our pane in cassetta, or bread in a box, has cooled just enough. I like to try my bread when it's just a little bit warm so it melts that butter. Listen to that crust. Isn't that amazing? We're gonna let our knife do the work. We're just gonna take off the very end of that crust. You can see what our bread looks like. It's still a little bit warm to be cutting, so you're gonna see it's gonna ball up just a tiny little bit. But I'm really hungry and I really wanna try this. So I'm gonna cut off a nice thin slice. Now this crust is really, really thick, and I like that. Good crusty bread. Let's get some butter on there so it melts real nice. Now again, probably should have waited a little bit longer for this to cool before I cut it, but I just couldn't wait. I just could not wait. The smell was too much for me to bear. A little butter on me there. Isn't that nice? I Can't wait to make toast out of this tomorrow. This is incredible. That is a really, really good bread. Great sandwich bread. Can you hear that crunch?
It's good.
Better than anything you're going to buy at the store. This is definitely one I'm going to make more often. Much more often. So I highly recommend this bread in a box or Pane in Cassetta. You just need a nice Pullman bread pan to make this up. So do it. You'll love it. Highly recommend it. With that, thank you so much for watching POV Italian Cooking. I truly, truly appreciate it. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google+. Send me an email, povitalian@gmail.com. But most importantly, click that subscribe button in YouTube and download the Simply Good Food TV app. Again, thank you for watching. Make this bread, and ciao.